Welcome for another episode, Live from the Heart podcast. I'm very excited today to welcome my dear friend Fabrice Maravigna. This will be an episode in English. We have recorded many episodes before, most of them in French, but today this one will be in English. And I love talking with Fabrice always because we drop into the heart and we speak the truth. And together, I believe we can create magic on so many levels: magic money, magic manifestation, magic laughter, while revealing what's happening in the world and stepping into our true power from the heart. So thank you, Fabrice, for being a part of my life, and thank you for being here today.
As always, it's such a great pleasure being on your podcast. Thank you for having me, and Claire.
Can you please introduce yourself for people who have not yet heard about you?
Uh, well, this is always the most difficult, so today I'm going to keep it super short. I think I'm just a seeker, right? I just realized quite early that a lot of things in the world were not what they were looking like. Like it was a lot of deception, it was a lot of games, it was a lot of layers to peel off, and I was never satisfied with the life was that was proposed to me as a young man. So in my early 20s, I left for Australia. I thought I would be gone for a year. That turned into 10 years. And in those years, I had many activations and awakenings. I tried everything I could on my path, from meditation to breathwork to sports to plant medicine to meditation and so forth. And I came back home realizing that there is a life on automatic, on autopilot, and then there is a life after that when we wake up. So when I was in this process, I felt very supported to go to Bali to continue that adventure. And I got a little closer with all kind of yogis and mystics. And so, yeah, I would just describe myself as another you, brother or sister who are listening. Um, I'm an explorer. I'm passionate. I'm real, and I'm just spending and investing my time into self-actualization, becoming a better man, harmonizing my beliefs. Um, yeah. So, in a nutshell, I suppose I'm not the average guy who had a job for 20 years in the same office. I feel I had many lives, many lifetime in this incarnation, and I feel very grateful to be able to share some of that with you and your audience.
Thank you for sharing. So, quite early on, you've discovered that the veil of illusion, that there was a lot of lies spoken to us on television, vision, and on in many areas, even like the music industry, and many things are right now collapsing, as we can see with the PDD story, which is in the headlines. But it's been years. For me, it's mostly during COVID that I went down the rabbit hole, but I know that you've done that like much before, and that it's not easy to see what's been happening in the world. It's horrible, and not many people want to see the lies and the deception and the horrific things that are happening in the world. But when we manage to be realistic, then I feel that this is from this point that we can actually choose to transform and create something else in this life because of where we put our focus. And you're really big about that. Can you talk about that? Like the first step, maybe being able to acknowledge what is, and then making conscious choices towards what we want it to be.
Wow, that's a wonderful way to formulate your question, Anne Claire. And yeah, I suppose all of us who wake up, for lack of a better term, there is a moment where we start to see things differently, to ask more questions. And then, just like a child who believed fervently into the tooth fairy or Santa Claus, there is a life where it's part of our belief constructs, and we live with that. And then one day there is a big reveal, and a part of us die, even the trust can be even tamed through betrayal and lies. And then yeah, there is a life after that where you are like, wow, if I've been lied to about this particular event, what else have I been lied to about? So for me, in 2008, 2007, 2008, I started to really challenge, what is meditation, what is mind, eating different things, different foods, trying the vegetarian thing, the vegan thing, the fruitarian thing, da 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 da. So, and then a few years later, in 2011, I think the documentary Zeitgeist came out, and for me, I'm sure in your audience, many people have probably dialed into that. But for me, that was kind of one of those giant slaps across the face where someone could be so articulate and calm and say and show basically a different perspective than what the TV and our leaders were portraying, yeah, on TV, on the radio. So for the first time of my life, I was like, what do you mean our leaders are lying to us? And why would they? And so it starts. So like you say, a lot of people during that COVID thing definitely got a bit into questioning things because none of that narrative was making sense. And I suspect the agenda is more about creating confusion and people getting into fight mode, trying to be righteous. Like it creates a lot of divide. But you're talking about PDD because that's the latest hot crap. But yeah, there have been so many agendas and so many subjects that could infuriate us because it feels very unfair and it feels kind of like crazy. It feels like out of a horror movie or sci-fi movie. And most human beings are very gentle and kind at heart, at least when they have enough to eat and to have their little family. Most humans are actually gentle and caring. But they are also a part of the population, unfortunately, that is dysfunctional, sociopath, psychopath, narcissistics. Like in psychology, you have all this spectrum that can constitute the human psyche. So it is a reality that some of these humans who also happen to have a tendency to seek more power, more control over other human beings, they do end up in a position of power of some kind because they are willing to do certain things that most normal people would not. Like a lot of us would not sell our soul to the devil. And that metaphor is really like sometimes you are maybe the mayor of a town and big industry is coming and they're like, hey, we're gonna to develop this $1 billion oil thing and we're just gonna to give you $2 million to shut up and let us do our things. And that person in that moment is like, well, $2 million is, it's puts my family in a good spot for, so whatever the reason be. It may also be just because they just love money, whatever, but there can be many reasons why. But so what happened over time is we end up in a civilization where a lot of people in power, they've lost the oath that they signed up for, which was to serve and protect the public. This is the true role of a leader, is to, if you're smarter than your friends, you need to apply that beautiful intellect into creating better systems, into optimizing things and flow of everything in your community. And instead of seeing that, now we see, because the default example is corruption, and you live in Bali, so you would know a thing or two about that. Then there is less and less people keeping the brothers and the sisters accountable. So as a civilization, if you zoom out every few hundred years, you will see it's the same in every nation. You have a rise and a fall of human values, and there is a golden age, and then there is an iron age, or a time where everything goes bonkers. And so right now we are at the bottom of that bucket of the iron age, coming out of it and moving into what people like to call the new earth, or the new paradigm, because we are just fed up, and we start to see those broken systems are just not sustainable anymore. So people are just genuinely losing interest, and they sort of like, or if they're not losing interest, they get stuck, like I was for a few years, trying to know all the rabbit holes, all the conspiracy theories. It's so consuming. You move from chemtrails to geoengineering to the moon thing to the NASA thing to the pedo thing to the adrenochrome thing to this, and it just never stops. And it's very dark, it's very dense, it's very heavy. Um, but again, as you said, it's like this is part of the hero's journey. Like one adult cannot wake up without looking at the ugly and the darkness, and perhaps even recognize at some level that this is human nature. But yeah, hopefully we're not all psychotic and sociopath, because that would be a big problem. But where I'm getting at is what I've noticed after about perhaps 10 years of my life being totally OCD into all those lies that are constructing the fabric of society, is I came up with a new idea, with a new perspective, Anne Claire. And I want to share that with you and your audience today because it was quite liberating. I started to consider the life, the world that we know, like a video game. And in the video game, you have the good guys and you have the bad guys. And we need that polarity. Otherwise, nothing would never happen. It would be no story. Everything would be boring. So no, you want people to fight and then to make out and make love and the passion. But you want that polarity somewhere. So if we take on the idea for a minute that we live in a simulation reality, a giant computer, then the way I look at corrupt people or people who are doing those terrible things these days is like, I'm actually grateful for these people to take that weight and that shit on their shoulders and on their karma, because it actually gives me the contrast, very clear contrast in my mind. Wow, there's a line here. What kind of healthy adult would ever want to harm a child? Like, how fucked up someone has to actually be, how miserable someone has to actually be, in pain, in suffering, to go there and do these kind of things. So these days I'm actually grateful for the contrast. And what I've noticed is, instead of bitching about it forever, I can use my life force, my energy, my focus onto how can we make it better? How can we make it different? So shifting from really complaining and repeating over and over negativity, dense crap. Yes, once you acknowledge it and you recognize it, it's a phase in the awakening, but then we need to move on and start to use our gifts, our creativity, our imagination, and come together and do things differently. So in that video game, I found that, what if the bad guys, and I'm just going to throw a couple of words here that people may be familiar with, the secret societies, the illuminates, them, it's always mysterious and elusive. But what if these beings were nothing more than a program in a video game, and their only job is to poke us so much until we get fed up and we wake up and we stand on our own 2 feet and we find our voice, our courage, and through that we align our actions. And then all of a sudden, you become that possibility, that Neo guy in the Matrix. And this would never happen if we were born in a little ball of cotton with no challenge, like nothing, like, we would just get lazy and all. So I found my peace looking at the world this way. I now recognize it's perfectly balanced. And every soul, every individual, we have the power to choose how we want to play life, basically.
This is so powerful. Thank you for that. I remember when I got stuck, when I was just, bathing into all those news and watching so many videos on BitChute and Odyssey and all those other websites, which are not YouTube. which, and and then I had a coach who asked me a powerful question. She said, "And Claire, if the world around you doesn't change, if the people don't wake up, if the government don't evolve, if this don't change, how much do you want to change?" And that was such a good question. I was like, oh my God, I never asked myself. I've been crying for months and I didn't wonder that because I didn't even consider that the world could maybe not change. I was sure that I could do something. And then I took my power back when she said that. And finally I moved and I said, okay, if it were never to change or even worsen, it's possible that things get worse, then who do I want to be? What do I want to do? How do I want to use my time? And how much do I want to evolve spiritually, emotionally, in my relationships and in my business, in everything I want to create? This was so good.
It's a very powerful question. Sometimes that's all it takes, right? One
Yeah.
simple change in perspectives. And I like what you say here. It's so easy to project and denounce the bullshit in others, but it's actually harder and more masterful to accept they're gonna to do them regardless. So what can I be myself? I really resonate with that, Anne Claire.
So how did you do?
How did I do? How did I
Get out
transition?
of get out of researching and being upset at what you were seeing outside, and how did you do to take back your power bit by bit?
Yeah, so I mean, clearly it's been several years back to back, and when you pay attention to your life, you're gonna to notice things. You're gonna to perceive synchronicities. You're gonna to learn lessons. You're gonna to have realizations, insights, because you're paying attention. If you're not paying attention, chances are people are cycling again and again in the same patterns with more and more intensity until okay, I was missing the lesson, the teaching here. So for me, part of my character, I'm rather strong mentally and physically as a man, and I had a tendency to push and to keep on pushing even when I was tired, even when I was so. I never really had burnouts, so to speak, or I never crossed that fine line, but I got tired. I think it's just life. I started to turn mid 30s and I was like, oh my God, I'm such a perfectionist. There are so many things I would like to do differently in the world. And it upsets me. But then I realized, what's the net of that behavior? My emotions and my thoughts were negative, and they were contracting me. They were creating feelings of anxiety, frustration, resentment, anger, rage, you name it. I wanted to be, the hero. But I realized most of those things that we complain about, they never seem to happen in our direct reality. They happen somewhere on the other side of the world or on TV or so then I started to pay more attention, like if something challenging happens in my direct experience, that's when I need to show up like my heart is telling me. And the 99% of the time, I just need to accept that this is the setup for other people to grow. And through that challenge, through that cataclysmic event, whatever it may be. And so I really started to understand that you cannot win all the battles. In fact, it's wise to choose your battles. And I started to stay really local. Obviously, my personal life and physical boundaries and all that, but also my wife. And as you get more means, more resources, then you can take care of more people in your life, perhaps even your community, your family, your community, and that's enough. And so, yeah, I started to realize it just takes one tiny candle to lit up a pitch black room. Just one candle. So, fam, just be that candle. We know it's pitch black out there sometimes. But again, now I know a deeper truth. It is a gift in disguise. It is the paradox and the stimulus that we need to find ourselves and realize self. So I'm not ecstatic when I hear some horrible things going on in the world or anything, but I don't let it affect me emotionally so deeply like I used to. I don't allow myself to drift on automatic, compulsively, to drift into the thinking and the emotions. I step back and I'm like, aha, I see what you're doing, video game. You're throwing another thing at me. But it's always a different flavor, but it's always the same substance. It's trying to push me out of balance. Um, so I won't lie, and Claire, it takes many times to remember this and forget it again, and remember and forget it. I'm sure some of your audience today, they're listening to this and they're like, yeah, you're right. I know exactly what you're speaking of. And then, go back to life, and in a week, it's gone again, and someone is cutting you on the road driving like an asshole, and you road rage. So it takes time to cultivate that muscle of awareness, of presence. And yeah, I'm very big on meditation. I think meditation is so underrated for people. We think consuming more knowledge, more information, more strategies is going to make our life better. But we all maxed out. We are swimming in a soup of information. It's overwhelming. And actually, the only great thing to do is to cut the noise outside and start to dial in and start to learn how to feel, how this avatar even work before worrying about what's going on, on the other side of the world.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, slowing down, cutting out the distractions. And then I guess also, as you said, you have a direct impact on your community and your family. And you can always choose and step into action every single day in alignment with your vision. And it gets so easy to be distracted, but actually it's a choice to come back to what's essential, what's the most important, and be remembered of that every single day. It's just a choice to go back there. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's powerful. Like, what would you prefer? What kind of life would you prefer? To complain about things every day, to complain about how your partner or your mom or your dad are eating just because you've discovered recently you could eat cleaner? Do you want to get into an argument with them and tell them they're wrong 24/7 and be in those frequencies? Or do you want to find the smile in you and say, wow, I'm lucky I just realized that? Because maybe they will realize it, maybe not. Maybe that piece of information is going to serve them, maybe not. And as I'm getting a little older, not so old, but for sure between your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s, you really look at life so differently. And for me, in the recent years, I'm so grateful to be alive and to be here in the eternal now. So every day, I'm doing my best. I'm sharpening the saw to become a better man, to become more patient, more loving, more compassionate, more accepting. And I know it may sound cheesy, but as you reconnect with your heart space, there is nothing else to do. It's like every minute of the day you spend in a calm, loving vibe, that's for you to keep, for a start. And we are collectively writing the story of the world. So, you know, I watched Kung Fu Panda 4 the other day because I really needed to empty my mind and have a little fun moment between like so much work. And I really like those cartoons, actually. I'm a huge fan of Kung Fu Panda for many reasons. But they say something in that movie that really sticked with me. And they said, every single step we take leaves a footprint, regardless how small. And I mean, it's a cartoon for kids, but I was like, holy moly. Every single time I'm in a conversation with my wife, with my dad, with my mom, and I can choose to be righteous or loving, every single moment I can remember to choose being loving, it's shifting walls, fam. And yeah, that's an invitation for you. If you never put too much time and thinking in that direction, it's like, wow, I can reclaim my power just being present and choosing a path of least resistance, a path of more acceptance. Yeah.
Awesome.
Isn't that cool?
And it's amazing. And we are so much more than we think we are. And when we focus on the outside, quite often we feel really small and we think, oh, who am I to make a difference? But when we refocus to our on our inner powers, then this is where we can discover or rediscover, because I believe we knew and then we forgot how
Mhm.
powerful we are and how much we can be great manifestors and creators. And you've been on this path of coming back to your inner power with full presence and activating some superpowers. Let's say it this way, superpowers. And how is it for you to unlock these abilities or to rediscover them and make space again for them to be alive in this lifetime? Can you share a bit about that?
I mean, that's a beautiful, mysterious question, but I get what you're asking, Anne Claire. And so, what we have a tendency to call superpowers or supernatural abilities, actually, as you heal yourself and you do the work every day, and you will be empowered. This is a function of the human body, of the human nature. The more energy and light you can contain, the more equipment will be given to you to perform the task. Think of it as a manager or a CEO who is dealing with 200 employees and millions of dollars of sales volume and stuff like that. That person is not supernatural, but they have learned specific skills of managing the time, very good communication, seeing the best in people, building people up, whatever. It requires a lot of skill sets that nobody's talking about. Now, similarly, when people get on the path of yoga, of breath work, of plant medicine, of fasting, of praying, of devotion, of conscious lovemaking, or tantric practices of that nature, there are just so many routes that a human being can take, but it seems they all lead to the same realization, the realization of oneness, the realization that we are all the same life experiencing itself through a different perspective, through a different point of view. Point of view, your point of view is, so um on my journey, and I don't care so much about my journey because these days I realized it's never been about me. It's always about others and about life flowing through us and how we can play and engage. So when we put our focus onto others instead of the idea of self, things change dramatically, fam. And just to give you a few pointers, I'm sure in your audience, if there are 100 listeners today, I would assess that at least 50 of them had some kind of mystical experience, regardless if they can put it into words or not. A near death experience, a LSD trip, an ayahuasca trip, a lovemaking that took them places, at least 50 of them. Out of those 50 people, I'm sure maybe it's from the top of my head, but it's just to give some kind of context. Maybe 5 to 10 of them have had experiences around the Kundalini energy. So maybe a little spark, a little stimulus, or maybe their Kundalini came online full on and they still landing from that experience. I'm sure few of them, 2 or 3, are probably channeling, speaking light language, and being ridiculed for that. And because there is also a lot of bullshit in neo spirituality, we lacking context, we lacking wisdom, and we live in like an attention economy. So everybody seems to be screaming to be seen. Me, look at what I can do. But actually, the more energy you can contain as a human being, the more you need to raise the humility thing. It works hand in hand. Otherwise, I've noticed from my personal experience and close friends, we get floored. It's just like giving a Lamborghini to 18 years old. It's not going to happen. And if they don't pay attention, it's not going to end very well. So initially on the awakening path, people are eager. They're eager to know that Kundalini thing. It's a whole world of fighting and competition and Kundalini this, Kundalini that, Kundalini yoga, Kundalini this. People are forcefully trying to initiate something within their own system that actually will happen sort of naturally as long as you do specific practices like mindfulness, yoga, meditation, fasting. If you hang in that realm for long enough, it will happen just the same that every seed will eventually blossom as soon as they land in the right soil. So for me, 8 years ago, I had one of those moments where a lot of energy appeared from within my system, from the base of the spine, and then it started to find its way and move through the body. And it took me at least 3 years to ground this. And then after that, I've started to notice that my intuition was so clear. It was more than intuition, it was foresight. I started to be able to get more information when I meet people, just looking at them, just being in their presence, noticing their body language, the posture of the body, the words that they're using. It's telling me so much more than before, you see, an awareness, stuff like that. And then I started to, have light language coming through me, which for the longest time I thought this was a mix of attention seeking people or people with mental issues. That was my strong judgment there. I really thought that people speaking light language are bullshitting. And I'm sure a lot of them are because they're trying to be long or to be interesting. But actually, a lot of people are not lying, and it's just your nervous system who is changing gear. It's an evolutionary system, in fact. And the same that you can plug a USB into a laptop to download data, uh, more evolved form of consciousness are going to bypass the mental plane and the language that we know, like English or whatever. And it's a morphogenetic field that's going to inform another morphogenetic field of which key we have for each other. And so this usually takes place through light language because, like the name indicates, It's so much faster and more efficient, and you don't have to deal with the monkey mind always interfering and judging and trying to make things more or less depending on the situation. So like language is, I put that in your podcast today, Anne Claire, but I feel in 10 years, at least 25% of our brothers and sisters will be appointed with light language, and it won't freak nobody out. Of course, if you come from the countryside and all you know is Christianity or whatever, religious beliefs, at that level of consciousness, they probably gonna to explain that to you like it's the devil, it's bad, it's. And that's just a lack of context and a lack of realizing that we are the technology. Our physical body are the most accomplished computer in the universe, fam. So if you subscribe to the idea that we come from the monkey, it's going to take you a little longer to realize yourself. If you come from the possibility that we don't necessarily know where we come from, but we are an infinite life, infinite intelligence, because when I look around and I look at all the trees and the flowers and the animal kingdom and the sunset and the sunrise, I can clearly see there is an intelligence there who is painting this for us every day. It's not random. There's an intelligence there. In the beginning, that intelligence feels like it's separated from us. And on your path to awakening, you will merge further and further closer to the divine, which is your true nature, not your intellect, not your collection of beliefs. So, yeah, I suppose people who hang on that path for long enough and are not so interested about impressing everybody else, they just doing what they know in their heart needs to be done, regardless how ridiculous or fascinating it may look. As you become a conduit and a channel for that kind of energy, life doesn't want you to keep that energy to yourself. It doesn't work like that. It just wants you to give it back and to share it with places, with stones, with people who need that light. Since now you're a big boy or a big girl and you realize you could connect to your infinite nature, tap into that infinity, bring it through the body, through the avatar, and move that energy. It's like martial arts. It's like playing music. It's like painting. If you do something for 10, 20, 30 years, I can assure you this is serious business and not something to put aside or ridicule, because you will close those doors to your own existence, fam. So inevitably people start to have abilities to heal people, to see things before they happen, and all kind of quote unquote superpowers. The Vedic, in the Hindu tradition, call these siddhis. And siddhis is whatever the extra boost that you need to continue your progress on the path. If you are worthy, meaning if your heart is actually pure and it doesn't come from a place of power driven, if your heart is really in command, you will be extremely surprised at how you can bend the so-called reality, and the reality becomes more fluid and not so physical anymore. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm happy that you're asking this, because I have no shame and I have no pride. I know my path is truth. Is truth to me, at least. I don't expect everybody to be on the same path. That would be ridiculous and boring. Some people like to make shoes, some people like to make bread, some people like to dance, and some people like to build homes, and some people like the yogic arts. And actually, it's amazing because we are symbiotic. We need each other. There is not a codependency, but a co-synergy when humans come together. It's like the forest and the mycelium and all that. So we need each other in our uniqueness, and it's time to get real. If you are on the path of awakening, you cannot waste your time, keep on drinking, keep on smoking, keep on fucking around, keep on this, keep on that, because God or the life intelligence, they're rooting for us to express our full potential. And I know enough magical brothers and sisters and guides and teachers to know that the human potential is nothing short of extraordinary. It's just mind blowing what we can turn into, uh, if we have that calling. Yeah.
Thank you. This is beautiful. I totally resonate with everything you said. And I figured out years ago, as I was putting myself of service after a long period of healing, that the only thing that was important is to let life flow through me. And that it's actually life that was doing the magic through me if I was willing to be of service, available, and I would say clean. It's clean in a way that is, if I'm able to witness my thoughts and let them pass, and clean my body and clean in so many levels, then life can make it magic through me. And I would say this is just a full-time job. This is what we're currently doing, I guess, you and I. And sometimes we use different words, but this is basically the same thing. I love it.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how you articulate that. You use different words than me, but we're talking about the same thing. And our brothers and sisters may need to hear this over and over again so many times until it click for them.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just a vague idea. What does that mean to surrender to life? What does that mean to let life happen?
Yeah.
There is a time in our life it doesn't feel that way, and so we are trying so hard. But as you pointed out, there is, I think, a humility that grows naturally, and when we realize we don't have all the answers and maybe we need help, if we are willing to ask the universe or the ether, please show me. I will be devoted to working with you as a team. Then we may be surprised that the universal mind and hearts are so much smarter and efficient than us.
Yeah.
All we have to do is indeed to show up. And so, if, for example, it means you're going to go on stage and talk about this in front of 50 people, well, naturally, our human is going to come in the picture and say, I'm terrified of public speaking. I have nothing special to talk about. Why me? Like, all this chatter will come in our head. And our job is actually to be able to say, okay, I hear you. And I'm still going to take that leap of faith and see what happened. Because I'm sure I'm going to learn something. Worst case scenario, I will learn something. And best case scenario, I will have a breakthrough. And so, with that attitude, month after month, year after year, you become a Jedi, right? You become a master at doing that 20 times a day. And that's how you can really get closer to. That's what I think you mean by being of service, is to deal with our own limitations by getting into action. And yeah, it requires trust. It requires trust in self, trust in life. So maybe we need to clear a lot of things before we can attain those level of consciousness. Because clearly, if we are in pain or trauma, and we keep on talking about our story over and over to nauseum, we stay in that frequency forever. We ourselves are writing that software. So even though this can be necessary at the beginning, it's very obvious to me later on the path that regardless where we come from, this was a gift to equip us, maybe with strength, maybe with resilience, maybe with discernment. We could not be discerning if we didn't get screwed a couple of times. You see, like retrospectively, it makes sense. But earlier on the journey, it certainly doesn't make any sense at all. So surrender. It's just a word, but it takes decades to master the thing behind the word.
Fabrice, when are you writing a book?
Some days, some days. I think I will just continue to do my meditations and activations with Gaia, and that's a highly efficient way for me to reveal more of myself
Yeah.
to people, and it's been very rewarding lately. So maybe when I'm in my 60s and I have the luxury to have a year or two where I'm just with my little dog and my kids playing in the garden, then yeah, I will write an autobiography and leave some crumbs for those hearts and minds who are seeking. And maybe in my message, they will find some keys to help them on the way.
I think it's gonna happen before because in your 60s, your kids will be in their 20s. So
Yep.
that's for 10 years from now, not 20 years, I think.
I'm open and clear, and I like how you are pointing out yet another subtle limitation of mine. I don't know. I don't know when I will write a book. It's just I've started actually to download a lot of things and put it together, but it's not a book yet. It's more of a template of something powerful. So work in progress.
Wonderful. Anyway, there are so many ways to impact the world, which is what you're doing through education. You're helping people get into the crypto world with discernment and with their heart, and art. And you're doing so many other things, creating companies and impacting the world with your entrepreneurial spirit. So many things are happening right now for you. If people want to know more about what you do and what you offer, where is the best place?
Um, well, thank you for portraying me like this. Hearing you saying it, I'm like, wow, dang, I've graduated in the last few years of my life. You know, 10, 15 years ago, I was looking up at my coaches and business mentors, and I suppose, eventually you merge with those people that you spend the most time with. So if you guys want to speak of basic needs and you want more wealth, more money in your life to manifest yourself or to come out of survival and establish a foundation of financial security, financial safety, or even financial abundance and superabundance, my special tool is crypto. And I think crypto is one of the fastest way to make money if you actually take it seriously and you learn a couple of things. So if you treat it like the casino and like a degen gambler, and you watch three free videos on YouTube, and you think you are a crypto dude or dudette, you will learn just like all of us. That's not how you make money in crypto. You need some kind of strategy. You need some kind of clarity, some kind of mindset, and it takes 2 to 6 months for a grown-up adult to let it infuse and to get clarity with how everything works. But I assure you, some students are having incredible results within a few months if you've decided you want to change your finances. So if that's you, if you want to learn about crypto, with my wife, we have cryptokingdom.love, quite easy to remember. Our joke is about, as we all become more sovereign, we're all going to create kingdoms around the world and communities of people who are taking responsibility fully for their own existence. So you create your own kingdom, you find the other kings and queens out there, you team up. It's the best video game ever, but it does require a lot of focus and effort and patience and love. It's the real deal. So please find us on that particular website if you want a beginner course or if you want to work with us through consultations and stuff like that. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram for a few more months, but I'm gonna to escape. I'm going to close that chapter. Um,
No, the
early
memes.
2025. Yeah, all the memes are free range now. They don't need me anymore. So yeah, if you're kind enough to put my Instagram handle below the podcast or something, that would be lovely. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you for asking. Always.
Of course.
Hmm.
Um, Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I'm just curious about how our loving friendship keeps on giving and where it's going to take us. We had a project to buy land together in Bali. It got delayed, or the timelines took us on different paths. But I'm just so grateful to have quality friends like you and Claire, quite frankly. And, you know, thank you, God, I have a few more friends. But it's just the quality of the people. Because looking back at the friends that I had 10 and 20 years ago, we were all very chaotic and frankly mad and dysfunctional. And to see how far we came in just 10 or 20 years, it's a mind bender and it's so inspiring. And so now, when I get my phone, when I do a podcast and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so fortunate to have mirrors, gentle, loving, patient mirrors who we all building each other up and we all supporting each other, calling each other out success. And I wish for your audience to take a moment and really assess who they spend the most time with. Um, because ultimately that's what's going to have the most influence and impact in your transformation. So that's not always easy, but I wish for you, fam, to find some great friends because they will nurture and support you all the way till the end. These are my final thoughts for today. And Claire, I love you very much.
I love you too. This is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who listened to this episode together. We will do others in the future because we really like it. Feel free to send us messages and let us know what you would like to hear about in the next conversation because we love to respond to your questions too. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it and yeah, spread the love. Thank you, Fabrice, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye.
Love you.